All right, welcome everybody to this episode of O365Eh. On today's episode, we're joined by Cathy Moya. She's a Senior Customer Experience Program Manager with Microsoft, and we're here to discuss Microsoft Mesh. So welcome, Cathy, and why don't you just give our viewers a little introduction and explain to us what Mesh is.
Super, thanks. Yeah, so like I said, Cathy Moya, I have been at Microsoft. This is my 22nd year there. So lots of different things. I started as a Microsoft certified trainer, and then I came in to work on what was then called Microsoft Systems Management Server, later SMS, later Configuration Manager, and then Intune. A lot of time spent in endpoint management world. And I used to manage the Intune and ConfigMan MVPs and the Windows IT Pro MVPs. So y'all are just like the rock stars of the world here. I just can't say enough great things about our MVP community. Let's see, I went to hardware for a while, so I worked on mice and keyboards. And then when the MVP summit that was supposed to be March 16th in 2020 had to change from in person with all of you right there in the room, and then they said, no, it's all going to be digital. I went, oh. And I don't know if y'all know Lori Popmeyer, who has managed the team's MVPs for years, wonderful person. I sat down and I wrote her this email about, gosh, what I really want is an avatar experience. And I want to sit in a virtual seat and let people talk to their seatmates and send emojis. And then afterwards they can rush the speaker and they can talk to each other in the hallways. And she wrote back and said, Cathy, I am so busy, I can't even think about this, which I should have thought about that. She really was busy because, having to translate everything. And then about 2 weeks after the summit, I found out we had a new coworker, and she said, you should check out this thing. I think Microsoft owns it. It's called AltSpace VR. And I said, I don't have a VR headset. And she said, I don't think you need one. And my world changed in that moment. So I went and I found AltSpace. I found a whole bunch of other virtual reality platforms, and I just threw myself in. Because what I really believe is that VR was letting me connect with people in a much more realistic kind of way, especially for the social interactions. Because the MVP Summit isn't about you guys just sitting there and receiving information, right? It's about you get together with people that you haven't seen all year in person, and you have those side conversations, and then you go out and you drink together and all the fun stuff, right? And okay, so we can't bring the alcohol in, but we can represent the rest of the physical kind of connection in a virtual space. So what Mesh is an enterprise version of a 3D immersive experience. So, geared towards the workplace. We've brought it into M365. We're the new kid in the M365 family. There's still some things that we're, building out in it. And we actually just hit general availability, just a couple weeks ago. So spanking new, paint still wet. We're getting people out there, getting people using it. But it really just lets you walk into virtual spaces in a couple different ways. Or let's see if I apply my avatar here. We'll see if it does it today. I'm in early rings, and so sometimes it gets, a little cranky on it. But, I have an avatar that I can bring into the Teams experience, and then I can take that avatar into my 3D space and walk around. Is it showing yet, or is it just... there we go. No. Okay. Yeah, it turned off sometimes it turns off my avatar because it doesn't like my my resources availability. So we'll go back to camera. We tried. So what else would you like to know about Mesh?
I think it'd be good to clarify for our viewers. So there's practically the two sides of it. There's the avatar, and then there's the immersive 3D world experience. Maybe just tell us a little bit about the 3D immersive experience. That's probably the one capability I think people are less familiar with. What have your experiences been, and just to describe to our viewers what it is and sort of maybe some of the use cases for it.
So there are actually 3 experiences. So we consider avatars to be one of them. And so that would just be in this meeting, instead of having to be on camera, I can put my avatar up. Now, I usually am working out in VR because I play Supernatural like every day. And so I come in and I'm very sweaty and I have the VR imprint on my face. So I love my avatar because I can just turn that on and you don't have to see me until I've had a chance to, go freshen up a bit. But also, we found that with avatars, some people don't appear physically in the same way that they may perceive themselves. And so they can create an avatar that more fully represents who they are. So in terms of diversity and inclusion, it can be a really good thing. It's not just this novelty that's out there. And also helping with camera fatigue is another major issue. Then we actually have two related avatar experiences where you go in 3D. So one of those, like in this meeting right now, if we were all in the same tenant, we could go up to the view menu. We could say immersive space. There's an avatar. Thank you, Michael. We could go into immersive space with these avatars and we can walk around the space. Now, I don't know about you, but when we did have to convert everything to Teams because of the pandemic, we had a couple of those really awkward team happy hours where, there were like 12, 15, 20 people in a Teams call. And only one person can talk at a time. And so, especially at Microsoft, you get like 2 or 3 people who would just talk. And I'm not one of those people who's going to try to, shove in there. So I didn't really feel as included as I wanted to be. And what I found in VR is because we have something called spatial audio, we can be in different parts of the virtual space and we can be having our little conversations just like you would in physical space. So I can hear the other conversations going on, especially the closer I get to them, but I can also just be focusing on the person I'm talking to here. And so with Teams, you just say view immersive space and you walk into that experience. You don't have to install anything else. You don't have to create another account. And if you already have your avatar created, like Michael would be able to take that exact same avatar directly into this immersive view of Teams. And then when you're done and you want to come out, you just click view and then click gallery or view together mode. It's just one more mode right there in Teams. And so that makes it super easy to get to. It makes it super easy to, to bring people together. So that's one of the avatar experiences. The second avatar experience. Then we also have a standalone mesh app that you can install. Just go to the store, the Windows/Microsoft store on your PC, search for Microsoft Mesh, install that. And as long as you have the licensing, that does require Teams Premium for that particular thing. We have a 6-month trial. Go try it out. And then you walk into these various immersive spaces. So let me go ahead and I'll show you what I've got here as an example of an immersive space. Seems like the right time for that. Screen 2. Let me know when that's coming through. Just trying to get back to Teams. There we go. All right. Are you seeing the Mesh Beach event there?
Yep.
Okay. So I can just click this and I can click join. And I didn't get the right thumbnail here because I didn't take the time to upload it, but come on, join Mesh event. So that same avatar that I would have shown you there.
Question, if someone's running the Mesh app, can they join an immersive space that someone in Teams has joined, or are they separate?
Great question. So the endpoints that we support right now are Windows PC, and we also support Quest. And we did recently announce support for Quest 2, Quest 3, and Quest Pro. And so that you can get today. And then we did announce that sometime in this year, we will be providing support for Apple Vision Pro. So if you are using one of the 3D headsets, you would actually go into the standalone Mesh app, and then you can join either things created in the Mesh portal or Teams meetings that you've been invited to. From the PC client, you would just go in through Teams because we wanted to try to keep it really simple and not have people coming in multiple ways there. Does that make sense? Okay. So this is the beach cabana that my coworker Eric built. And there are a couple of default mesh environments that you can get. One of them is what we call Meadow, and it's this beautiful open space that we think about for all hands and company gatherings. And then there's one that is kind of the opposite of this. It's a desert oasis, and so it has cacti and kind of the white stucco wall kind of thing. And then this is the beach. So we've got the inner tubes out there. There are 5 of these picnic tables spread around. So we can go hang out on these and do, kind of a breakout room experience, because there's enough audio separation with that spatial audio that we could be doing a trivia contest, which my group's going to do tomorrow, and have little groups kind of spread out at each picnic table. And we have interactables, so I can play with my beach ball here and throw that around. I didn't share with sound, but there's a little boom box that's playing over here. It's got this little kind of island music going on. There are fish swimming by. It's a beautiful place. And anything that you can dream up and code in Unity, you can bring it in here. So some really fascinating use cases we've seen. The one that is probably dearest to my heart is Mercy Ships is a charity that has hospital ships that go around to places that don't have a lot of medical care. And then they can just, dock and provide medical care to people on these hospital ships. Well, they want to be able to train the people who are rotating in to give medical care. And obviously, it's a lot of turnover, because people will come in, they'll do their stint, they'll leave, other groups are coming in. So they can orient them on a virtual version of the Mercy ships. And they can show them the operating room. Now, they can also show them the bridge. If they were actually on the real ship, they would not get into the bridge for security reasons. But they recreated the entire bridge there. So that was this beautiful conjunction. There's a company called Link2VR. They worked with Dell to provide the funding there, and now Mercy Ships is using that in mesh to bring people in. We also have Accenture has been doing what they call their new joiner experience, their new employee orientation experience. All in mesh, people come in, they walk through exhibits that really show Accenture's culture, and they get to bond with other people coming into that new employee experience. So just beautiful things that people are creating in here.
Very cool.
Yeah. Cathy, you mentioned 6-month trial. So I guess that begs a question. So there's maybe talk a little bit about what components are free forever in mesh, if any, and what would you have to license beyond that 6-month period?
So licensing, I'm not going to try to recite the list, but I will say go to aka.ms mesh docs, all one word, no punctuation, mesh docs, and that'll get you, or you just go to the learn.microsoft.com and search for mesh, and you'll get our doc library. In there is a document called Preparing Your Organization for Mesh, and that's going to list the license requirements. But I can sum it up by saying we support the mesh in Teams experience, not the standalone, but just the mesh in Teams, with all of your standard like E3, E5 commercial licenses. So not EDU, not Gov, sorry, reasons. But, just like your standard, Office or M365 licenses there. And then great, Teams, you can do that. You can't do customized environments in the Teams mesh experience. And you have a limit of 16 people who can go into that immersive space at any one time. Now, it's Teams. You could have 300 people in your Teams meeting, but only 16 can go into the immersive space. And obviously, that's something that we would love to expand. But, what you got right now is 16. And then what I've done, if I do field trips and there are a lot of people, we'll just kind of rotate in. Okay, you get your experience, and then we'll rotate out, and the next group goes in. Or sometimes we'll just create multiple Teams meetings at the same time and do it kind of old school breakout rooms. Right. Like we're all in here, and then you're going to go to that Teams meeting, you're going to go to that Teams meeting, you're going to go to that one, and then we all come back. And then when we're off in the other meetings, you can't do the mesh experience from a Teams breakout room. And if you're running Teams breakout rooms, don't try to go in mesh at the same time. It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, your poor meeting won't know what to do. It will kind of. But the other way works great. And then if you want to do the standalone, then you need the Teams Premium, which of course comes on top of your other, basic commercial kind of license there. Because, what's great is this is all built into M365, it's built into Graph. When we generate the event, it shows up on your Outlook calendar, just like any other Graph-ish type thing. And if you're customizing the event, you can go in and you can put in pictures and videos. And those are all assets that you're just going to store on SharePoint or OneDrive, because M365.
Nice, thanks.
Okay, cool.
Speaking of licensing, I think the hot topic these days is Copilot, and of course infusing AI into everything. So I'm assuming there is an AI strategy for Mesh. I'm not sure if you're able to talk about some of the items and how AI and Copilot may be applied in the virtual world.
So I'll say we don't have anything that is shipping right now that has AI in it. For Ignite, if you look on our, you can just go to mesh.com, and we do have a hero video there that shows some imaginings of where we might be going with AI, but none of the, the actual AI, like generative stuff, is product truth today. Obviously, everything at Microsoft is going that way. You can just, intuit places that we might end up. And I think that video shows, some of the directional thinking that we'd like to be able to bring to life.
So, Cathy, I was just wondering, so you mentioned just, a couple of those scenarios. What would like some key scenarios from like an organization, like an enterprise, use this for? Like, I'm thinking like in my head, like a town hall, but like what else would that be? Because that's nice to also sort of bring everybody into like the one kind of a space, and then afterwards kind of break out. But what are some scenarios that you could give our listeners to maybe think about in their enterprises?
I think if you're looking for anything that is going to foster connection, community, diversity, and inclusion. So great example, last week, we worked with Asians at Microsoft. We have a ton of employee resource groups. So Asians at Microsoft is one of them. And they said, can we do Lunar New Year celebration in Mesh? And we said, yes, we can. And it turns out that we had a person on our team who is very into Tai Chi, and she had already been working with one of our technical artists to create this glorious Tai Chi environment, obviously Asian inspired. And she said, we could use that for Lunar New Year. And we said, okay. And the artist went in and he did a bunch of improvements. So it was this beautiful twilight time, and you had fireworks that you could turn on and off. And there were dragons. It was the year of the dragon. And one of the people from Asians at Microsoft created a scavenger hunt where you would go through and find all of the symbols of the Lunar New Year's there, and you could find your symbol and take a picture with it. So it was really just beautiful. We did some kind of icebreaker games in there, trying to get people to talk to each other and connect. And so I see that type of thing as a beautiful way to use Mesh. Partly because it's going to help people understand the kind of connection that you can get in there. And my hope from looking at what people were able to do with it is they're going to then take that back to their groups, and they're going to find ways to integrate that into their own day-to-day operations. So social, all hands, and then, like I mentioned, the Accenture new joiner experience. Another thing that we're going to do with women of E&D, for enterprise and devices, I think it's changed over the years since I've been there. So the women in the group that's making Office and M365 and Mesh, we're going to have a get together for International Women's Day. And rather than having somebody create the entire environment, which, that's a lot of work there, we're going to take one of our existing environments and then we're going to customize it. And we hope to make kind of a women's history exhibit that people can go through and raise some thought-provoking questions throughout the experience. So that's another really great way I see that as some kind of a curated museum that people could go through individually. Now, for me, really, I plan a lot of events, and I always stop and think, why would I do this in an immersive experience versus teams? And so if it's just one person going through, well, you can make a PowerPoint slide, there are other ways to convey that. But it's really, for me, about getting people together to talk about what they're experiencing as they move through those exhibits.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
Kind of brings up two questions. What kind of skill sets do you need to create your own space? And from a time estimate, like even that beach one that you were showing us earlier, like how involved from an effort point of view is to create some of these? I'm sure you can go, can continue modifying and improving forever, but
yes,
like to get something started so you can get, some of your coworkers in that space. And
so, like I said, we have a couple of environments that we ship. The Meadow environment and the Oasis environment are right there. And if you want to just customize those by adding your own pictures and videos and a screen share device that you can then, share to during your event, that is dead easy. That's just point, click, upload. And that can be really, I've done it so much now, I am super fast at that. But if you want to actually create your own world, it's really how much time do you have? How much effort do you want to involve? What is the fidelity level that you want it to be? So if you just want to go do an hello world in Unity, we have, again, aka.ms mesh docs up on our documentation site. We have a whole section geared towards developers. This is all done in Unity, or at least through Unity. Like if you want to work in Blender or Sketchfab or whatever else, you can work in it, but it has to come into Unity, and then we have an uploader connection from Unity that brings it into Mesh, and that's how the environment becomes available for people to use. We do have our toolkit where we ship several prefab environments. So if you're not averse to firing up Unity and you just want to go and throw up one of those, that's not terribly difficult either. I am not a coder. I can spell Unity on a good day. But I was able to walk through all the instructions and upload something and go, yay, there's my environment. But beyond that, we are offering the ability to do a lot of rich integration. There's a lot of coding that you can do. So there was a winter wonderland that Hololux, one of our TAP participants, who also has many MVPs working there, they created this beautiful space where you could throw snowballs at each other and you could drink hot chocolate and you could decorate trees with ornaments and you could build a snowman. And it was just, it was mind-boggling, the beautiful things that they created there. Obviously, that's not fast, it's not cheap, but it was beautiful. And then we can also do different types of data integration. So we can actually, if you're tying this into an Azure cloud subscription, you could be bringing your data into this environment in some way. Just amazing stuff there. So, how much time and money do you have? Now, one of the ways that you can tweak some of the learning curve on some of these things, the same guy who developed our beach cabana, he also was able to do a volumetric capture of our previous building, Studio C. And so we had a Studio C environment that I could take people into. I had people who would get kind of teary because they joined Microsoft during the pandemic and they've never set foot on actual campus. But they're like, I'm at Microsoft. And then we recently moved into the new Microsoft buildings. You'll see all those when you come for the MVP Summit. And he got the architectural plans through our facilities. And so he was able to build out from the architectural plans. Now, it still wasn't a slam dunk. I mean, there was a lot he had to do to massage those, but those are things that can greatly decrease your time to adoption.
Very cool. I was thinking, Cathy, about that Accenture example you used. There's probably good use cases for training
Yes,
that
absolutely.
involve collaboration. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, and what we've seen in the data that people are doing as they're looking at training done in immersive environments, it sticks in
Mm.
a totally different way. Even if it's just the 2D experience, like you're on a PC, not on a headset, it still tends to stick better in those kind of experiences than it would a non-immersive environment. And then, boy, if you get those people in a headset, wow, it's there.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. All right, well, this has been fantastic. Before I let you go, I just want to ask quickly about roadmap. I know that's always a confidential subject, but anything you can publicly tell us about what's coming in terms of mesh in the short term, medium term?
Well, as I mentioned, we just hit general availability, or GA if you're into the Microsoft speak. And so really what we need to do now is let this product get used. So we're all about adoption. Another site you can go to is adoption.microsoft.com/Microsoft-mesh. And, or just go to adoption.microsoft.com. There's a whole list of products that you can click through. You'll find Mesh, you'll find Loop, you'll find Teams, it's all up there. And that is a site that we're building out. So what we really need to do is find out, what do you all want to be doing with this? We gave our best guess at a minimum viable product, and it's out there. And give us feedback, because that's how we're going to prioritize. Now, we obviously have a few things that we're looking at, that we know we just need to be moving in those directions. And we're, because we're so new, we're just not really talking about roadmap at this point, other than, yeah, there's a lot of, if you think about the really obvious stuff, it's probably been obvious to us too. It's probably obvious that we would be working on those things. But otherwise, it's really going to be, what are the actual use cases people are doing? What do we need to do to support that so that we can make it something that you use and love?
No, that makes sense. And for people who want to give feedback, what's the best way?
So when you are in the standalone Mesh app, or when you're actually in the immersive Teams experience, there's a little menu in the bottom left, has 9 little dots, kind of like the office grid, the waffle. So you click that, and send feedback is like right there. So that'll do it. Now, if you are in Teams and you're trying to get into immersive space, and something isn't working, that experience is fully integrated in Teams. So you can also just use the Teams report a problem, and from there it'll just take you to the little box that says, okay, what feature in Teams? Avatars and immersive spaces in Teams are both listed there. So whichever one you're having problems with, feel free to go ahead and file it there as well.
Makes sense. All right. Well, this has been really informative, Cathy, and I think I'm going to encourage a few people to dive in and immerse themselves in this feature. Yeah.
And
so
if you want to find me, if you want to find me on LinkedIn, I'm really happy to talk to people about the kind of events that you want to run. Internally. So I never said my job at Microsoft. So I'm a customer experience program manager. So I'm working with our customers who are deploying this, and some we've talked about publicly, like Takeda and Accenture and DXC and BP. And then I'm also working internally at Microsoft to do things like that Lunar New Year experience. So I think of myself as like the Mesh cruise director. And I want to help you all be cruise directors for your deployments of Mesh. So, tell me what you need. Tell me what would be helpful to be able to get people out there and having fun on the Lido deck. And, let's help build these communities who are using this for great things.
No, sounds good. And we'll include those links in the corresponding blog post. So that's great. All right, Cathy, I want to thank you a lot. Thanks for your time. Thanks for coming on and explaining the world of Mesh for us. And yeah, we'll talk to you later.
Thanks so much for having me. You guys are doing great stuff.
Thanks.